listening, but this is Tom. I've got to let my dog out, so I'll be right back.
Okay, so we have everybody here except for Tom, who's letting his dog out. Cindy, I need the agenda back up again. My iPad is dead.
One moment.
Okay, moving on to the next item, another closed session per Iowa Code Section 21.51J to discuss the purchase of particular real estate only where premature disclosure would be reasonably expected to increase the price the governmental body would have to pay for that property. The minutes and tape recording of a session closed under this paragraph shall be available for public examination when the transaction discussed is completed. Do I have a motion to go into closed session?
So moved, Evans.
The second, Fresh.
Motion and a second. Cindy, vote please.
Councilmember Evans,
Yes.
Martin,
Yes.
Ready,
Yes.
Coe.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay.
Okay, Cindy, as soon as you put the agenda up, we'll get started again.
Sorry, I thought it was up.
That's, well, it was, and then it disappeared.
Okay.
Okay, the next item on the agenda is the strategic planning session, master staffing plan and staff resources. And I see Tamara is with us, but Jim, are you going to kick this off?
Well, I just make a real brief comment. I mean, we were hoping to give Tamara about 40 or 45 minutes for this conversation this evening, but obviously our closed sessions lasted a little bit while longer. So I think we just need to get as far along as we can. This is the last component of our strategic planning, is talking about the master staffing plan. And we do have a budget discussion that was planned also, but we can wait till the end of the council meeting for that. So we can just focus on this, and hopefully Tamara can get us through as much as she can in the time that's remaining.
Okay. Take it away, Tamara.
All right. Well, hello, everyone. Jim, do you still want me to stop at 7, or how long do you want to give this discussion? I know we had talked about 7 before, but.
Yeah, 7's still a pretty hard stop, and we can go
Okay.
a few minutes over, but yeah,
Okay.
that's important because we have
All
another
right, perfect.
group that is
Well,
waiting for us at 7.
Okay, well, we'll get right to it. And when Jim and I were preparing, and Cindy, if you could let me share my screen, or maybe I'm able to do that on my own here. So what we'd like to do tonight is, and we put together this document just because we knew we were going to have limited time, and to give you a kind of a starting off point. Our goal is really to talk through these 4 areas of economic development, park and rec with city recreation programming, with facility maintenance and IT, and then the 4th area was public safety. And I know there are a couple other things that later that you might be talking about, but our goal tonight is to really prioritize these 4 areas. I don't think we need to get down into the nitty-gritty about each specific position, but more so we'll talk about each area maybe for a few minutes, and then before we leave at 7, just we'll do a quick vote prioritization of the 4 areas. So let's just start with economic development, and I believe that you all have seen a document that Adam put together that talked about his role now and if there were to be a second person. And so I'll just take some notes again here tonight, but what we're really after is input from council on, you know, how important is it in the next couple of years to add staff in each of these areas? You know, why should it be a priority? You know, what are the reasons why? And we put up here some things we know now about it, but what we'd like to do is have a brief conversation about each area. So council, what are some of the reasons why this should be a priority area in the plan?
Well, this is Councilman Cope. I mean, I think when you look at the document that is attached in board docs, it's not on our screen right now, but it's kind of all the things that Adam is currently responsible for. To me, I think that's just a lot of it's a lot. All of it's really important. And so one of the reasons that when we went through the strategic planning process, and I was in the economic development breakout session, I just felt it was important for us to, to do an analysis of that and sort of determine if, and I think the world of Adam, and I think we all do. I think he's a very talented young man and does a great job for the city. But it's a heck of a lot of responsibility. A lot of major issues are kind of thrown towards him. I think I'm glad that they are, because he's very capable of handling them. But I just think that as we look at, we've taken some of our other departments and sort of added a second staff person, whether it be communications or we're talking about another person in the recreation area. I just sort of feel like economic development is as important as all of those areas, if not more important. And we have so many items on the agenda there that we need to look at whether we need to add another person to help kind of give Adam some assistance in that area. So that's one reason why I brought this up during the discussion.
Okay, thanks, Tom. How about others? How important is it to you? Are there certain challenges not being met just because of capacity, staff capacity?
I echo what Councilman Cope said, and it's really good. Although I have one question, I know we want just a second person. I totally agree with that. What's the timeline for that? I mean, do we have to do it now in this fiscal year or next fiscal year? What is the timeline for that?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think that was part of what we're after tonight, to see in comparison to these 4 different areas of how the priorities are. So then you can figure that into budgeting and planning for budget. And I don't know if Jim, if you want to address timeline on the economic development part right now. I know you do have some additional dollars that could be used.
Well, I think one of the advantages of a position like this is we do have the opportunity and possibility of using a different funding source than property taxes. We've talked a little bit about whether some of this gets divided up among some of the TIF districts, which we do have funding within those districts. So yeah, this has a little bit of a different feel because it wouldn't impact the property taxes. And so I think if this becomes a priority for the council, we can try to look what we can do to have this happen sooner than later. But it is not a part of the current budget plan for FY22. But if this is a high enough priority, we can try to see what we can do, but without impacting the property taxes.
Okay. Any other thoughts about economic development? It's kind of a hard word to say fast.
Well, I would agree with what Councilman Cope said in terms of the load that has been put on Adam to be everything from project manager to design consultant. I mean, he has taken on a huge portion of the load, and we've had several huge developments happening, which were very important to the identity of Johnston. And if he wasn't there kind of doing some quality control and coming back to us and saying, we need to have a meeting now, and we need to discuss this now, it's an important period of time, we need to make decisions, I think that things would have been overlooked. So back to, if we want to continue to have a Johnston look a certain way, and we don't want our development to, and I know that David helps with this too, and we have a master plan, comprehensive plan, but there's a million details, and things move fast. And if having a second person to make sure that we don't miss out on something, or we go down the wrong route in terms of or missed opportunity, or et cetera, that would be unfortunate. We don't have a huge area in which to fix our mistakes. We only are going to be able to grow to the north. And in fact, that north annexation could be really, really important for us. And again, how it develops with quality businesses and that look the way we want them, that feel right for Johnston is important. And if Adam needs help, I'm supportive of it.
Okay. Let's not to, because I know we can have further discussion, but for sake of time, just as a starting point, let's jump into the recreation programming area, because it seems like there's a lot of similar patterns of your thoughts on economic development. How about in the area of recreation programming? Again, there's several things here that Jim helped me identify of what we know now, how it's going to impact, or how you're going to work with Ignite, and you work with the community school district. So let's talk a little bit about the benefit of having someone focused on recreation programming, keeping in mind that the citizen survey, that rated this area #2 in priority for the next 2 years. So from the citizen standpoint, a high priority. What are the benefits to adding staff in this area? How important is it for the city? Who wants to start?
I was
It's a
thinking
big
more.
area.
It's a big area, so I'm just thinking of how many reasons to give here. But what I look at is the Ignite facility when that shows up, and that will be a right point in time to have an additional recreation person.
Mhm.
I guess my thoughts on this are the city has invested a lot of money into these recreational resources, our parks, Terra Lake, the partnership with Ignite. And I don't want them to be seen as a waste of money because they're not being used to the full extent. I have always had some concerns, candidly, about the amphitheater space that we put into the west side of City Hall. And then we have Terra Lake, which has amphitheater spaces. And frankly, we're going to have to work hard to keep those places active and full of events. And so we built it. We better fulfill its mission. And perhaps that takes this recreational person.
Okay, good, thank you. Other thoughts?
I just want to echo, I think what Councilperson Martin said, because I share that same kind of question about the kind of dueling amphitheater spaces and kind of what's the role there. So I appreciate her identifying that, because I think obviously we have Venue Works, who we've hired as a contractor to help with the town center space and that amphitheater and also the ice rink and all those things around there. And again, this is kind of where this is an area where recreation and kind of Adam's world kind of come into connection. And so, the recreation thing for me has always been a little bit of a struggle. I mean, because one of the things up there in the second bullet point under what we know, it talks about the community education programs, et cetera, but frankly, it doesn't identify the largest recreation programs that we have in our community from a youth standpoint, which are Johnston Little League, Johnston's club softball, all the club sports programs, which are not in the community education doesn't have anything to do with those. And so a little disappointed that isn't recognized, and we sort of always just go right to community education, because to me, the community education doesn't really play that big a role in the youth rec programs for the community. It's involved with some of the clubs, I think maybe the basketball club or youth football, but there's many other youth sort of programs. So I think from a youth recreation opportunities, I think we're pretty well covered in the community, but we certainly have a lack of adult recreation. So if you wanted to have an adult softball league, or you wanted to have an adult, and that's where I'm not sure if that's what this is trying to do, is do more adult programming, and you take advantage of Ignite and some of the needs for adult programming. I'm just not, it's not clear to me what the vision is in the rec area.
And I think, part of this is identifying where your questions are as well. And I think our goal tonight isn't necessarily to define the specific role, but raising those questions about how, if you do decide to go down this track, how should it be focused, right?
Tamara, I just want to add on to what Councilman Cope just said. I think that what we all recognize is that there's a lot of activity going on in our community around recreation. We've got a lot of recreation already taking place, but demand for more recreation programs. What are all of those programs? What is our plan for all of this? I think before we hire anybody, we need a plan on what the programming is and how we provide it to our residents, and then we can make some decisions around staffing.
Makes sense. Okay, so let's hold that thought, and let's jump into the facility maintenance and network. Because I think, as Jim explained to me on public safety, that you did just approve for 2 new police officers, thinking that that might not be an immediate need. So let's talk about facility maintenance and IT network with our last few minutes here, and see what kind of initial thoughts you have, so we can kind of get all the bases covered initially. So again, what are the challenges right now, and what are going to be the benefits to add staff into this area? And again, we've got some things that we know now. Kind of goes back to rec programming. What are the staff positions needed? You may not know that yet, right, until you know what the goals are. So what do you want to see? What are the benefits for adding staff in this area?
I just need a little bit of clarity on that. Is that 2 roles, facility maintenance and IT, or is that 1 role, both in the same person?
Well, I think we have it grouped together just for sake of conversation. But when you think about the skill sets needed for maintenance and IT and network, it would probably be very difficult to find someone who would be able to do all of those things.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to get it. So it's a little different. So it's not the same person. So it should be 2 different positions. Okay.
I mean, I'm just throwing that out there. And I think it's a great question you ask, because how do you look at this? What are the challenges now some of them are mentioned up above. Cindy is serving as the IT person. You have an IT vendor contract, but it sounds like your new city hall is going to be very advanced with technology and systems. So how do you want to think about facility maintenance and IT network moving forward?
I'm going to jump in here because I think it should be 2 different positions, and I don't know about the facilities maintenance part of it. I know somewhere tonight we're going to approve a maintenance agreement for Baker to handle the mechanical and plumbing service for the next year or so. But the IT part of it, when I got on the council 3 years ago, I was in shock that we didn't have a designated IT person for the fire department, police department, city hall, a go-to person to fix, hey, I can't do this on my iPad, or hey, my screen's fuzzy, or whatever. So I personally think it's extremely important to get a designated IT person that is the go-to person to, look at problems and make suggestions and be responsible.
Both proactive and reactive, right?
Would it be a conflict, James, to hire Jim to hire my son? I mean, he's the one who always switches my fuzzy iPad. Isn't that what kids are for?
And really, for staff, our go-to person is Cindy. That's who we all call day or night, whether she's in Iowa or California. We find her.
Yeah, when tech goes down, it's not fun.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
have a couple of things that I would like to throw in the mix. So IT is a little bit different than networking. And what Cindy does is more of an IT support, and networking is completely different thing. It's networking. So it's not the same thing.
But,
I don't
I certainly don't promote that I understand all of that, but I know that she knows a heck of a lot more about our network and is at the library at 5 in the morning or on a Sunday or whatever to make sure that our network that goes to Public Works, City Hall, the library, public safety is all working, or when Century Link's down, she's the one working with them. She's doing all that.
Fair enough. I'm not questioning her.
Yeah.
I'm just asking here. IT is different from
Yeah.
networking, so there's probably two different things that we need to look at. So whether we look at either IT or just have a networking person, so that's what we need to look at. That's what I'm trying to get at. So
Suresh, you're suggesting that these are actually two different positions too. IT person versus a networking person.
Right.
Do you see a priority over one or the other if you were to have to prioritize those two positions?
both are important, but I was going to ask that we do have somebody that comes by as an IT vendor contractor. So what does that person do, Cindy?
Did you hear that, Cindy? As
I
far as
did, sorry, I was trying to find my unmute button. He does a little bit of everything, kind of networking. You know, we essentially, we started with them when we were building the public safety building because we didn't know enough to know what we didn't know as we started down that path. So he does everything from fixing your fuzzy iPad screen to running network cable, to he's been out in the fiber handholds working with those guys. So he does a little bit of everything.
So he's the hardware guy, not the software guy.
We don't really have any, the only software we really have outside of, you know, Office or, you know, some proprietary GIS, Aclara kind of things that we always have support contracts for. We don't really have anything like that. I know I've worked, you know, in other places where we had SAP and we've had other things where having software guys was really important. It's not so critical here simply because of our support contracts that we have when we do have those kind of standalone programs.
Okay. So just a bit of a clarification. When I meant software, I mean networking software versus networking connecting the cables. They're two different things. So that's what
He does it all. He configures our firewalls and our routers. He does it all.
Okay.
Do we have a service contract with him, or how does he get paid?
Slowly, because he submits his invoices slowly, but and I'm hoping the chief is laughing and just muted because that's always our joke. But he bills us monthly for time and materials.
So I guess, Cindy, do you think we could save anything by bringing someone like him on?
I don't, but I mean, yeah, you could save my time, I guess, but the you know, because I've come from both sides of it, I know how much downtime there is for network guys and IT guys. So I'm always hesitant to have a full-time network guy on staff that doesn't fill some other role. You know, and when I add up what we pay, what we pay him from the city hall side, not PSB, but from the city hall side, we couldn't get someone for what we pay him for. And, you know, network uptime is as good here as it is anywhere I've ever worked. So I don't feel like we struggle. I know we've come a long way from where we were, you know, 15 years ago or so. But, ultimately not my call whether, bringing someone on is the right call at this point. Every year they ask, and every year I say, well, I don't know if it's this year or not. So.
Tamara, we're having some good discussion here, but we do need to wrap it
Yeah,
up.
I just saw that too. So I will save these notes out and catch up with Jim. And I was going to have you vote, but to me, it sounds like the economic development person is kind of a key priority, because on the rec area, you really need to do some planning first. And then on the IT, there's some questions. So that's kind of what I'm hearing from you tonight. I know we need to go. So kind of keep that in the back of your mind, and I'll catch up with Jim and we can see what, if there are any next steps, or if it's something that you just need for further discussion. So.
Sounds great.
All right. Thank you.
You bet. Thank you. Okay, I think we have gone through what we can on the work session agenda. We'll pick up the budget discussion at the end of the regular council meeting. And with that, we will adjourn the work session and give everybody just a minute to get linked into the regular session. We'll see you.